Good afternoon, Young Kings. Time for your more motivation. Um, I guess as I was thinking as I pressed record on this video, it's Christmas Eve, so I was trying to figure out is it Merry Christmas Eve or is it Happy Christmas Eve? But either way, it's Christmas Eve, your Christmas Eve edition of the More Motivation. I wanted to get back on here because I want to get through these boundaries before we get into the new year, so we can start off making sure that we have boundaries and we're ready to project into our future and manifest the things that are to come in our lives. So I don't think anything happens by accident. It's about being intentional. It's about being on purpose. It's about answering the call that is on your life to be better. And I think like I have this saying, like anything that I'm involved in is supposed to be better once I get involved in it. So if I'm at work, it's my job to make sure that I'm advancing it, the cause better than what it was, leaving the organization better than it was when I got there. So make sure that you're advancing in that endeavor. So in regards to this morning, it was a late morning this morning. I slept in, I didn't work out, kind of lazy this morning, just kind of rest and replenish my body. And as I mentioned before in videos, like I think rest is essential. I'm not saying that was my motivation. Mine was more laziness this morning, but got up and I was just fatigued, emotionally fatigued, mentally fatigued. My legs are still sore from the workout a few days ago. Just been wobbling. That's why I don't work out legs because, man, they still hurting. But rest is not a break from productivity. It's a part of it. So there is a time and a space where you need to replenish your body with rest. So I didn't work out today on Christmas Eve, and I probably won't work out tomorrow on Christmas Day, but I'll get back on task and purpose to make sure that I'm moving in the right direction and health-wise, making sure that I enter the year healthy, whole, mentally, physically, spiritually. And I think that's the way to go for us. So this morning, woke up late, but I did get out, ran some errands, just a last minute stocking stuffer things for Christmas. For those who celebrate Christmas, once again, Merry Christmas Eve, Happy Christmas Eve, and Merry Christmas for tomorrow. The reason for the season, at least for me in a Christian faith, I think that, I won't even say Jesus, and then I guess that'd be your homework. Look up the missing letter J or the mistaken letter J, and I'll give you a hint. And I said it before in a few videos, probably about a month, so maybe almost 2 or 3 months ago now. Like the letter J is only 500 years old. So if the letter J is 500 years old, then the name of your Savior who walked the earth over 2,000 years ago, name could not have possibly been Jesus. So do your research. So I subscribe to Yeshua or Ishua, which was the original pronunciation of the second person of the Trinity. You got the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So that Son that came down in the physical form was Yeshua or Ishua. It's spelled with a Y or with an I, depending on the translation in which it was written. The letter J was invented, 1,500 some years after that, and that's where it became Americanized. But if you're going to call on the Most High, I prefer to call him by his name. So I still believe that is the reason for the season. I am a giver, so Christmas, I enjoy Christmas as a giver. But even as being a giver, it's important for me to have boundaries of what I'm going to do. And we went over the difference between being used and utilized. So I went out and got some stocking stuffer things. And for my meeting tomorrow, I'm going to do something different. I decided, I'm going to do some steaks, and I'm going to do a seafood pasta with some crabs, some shrimp, and some sausage in there, and then a cheese sauce. I'm going to make kind of a mushroom cream sauce to go for the steaks. Now, on the steak, I decided to go to the butcher. And once you get steaks from the butcher, it'd be hard to eat regular steaks from a grocery store like a Walmart or a Myers or a Sam's Club, because the butcher steaks are fresh. So I pre-ordered some ribeye because ribeye is my favorite steak. I pre-ordered ribeye, three with the bone in and three with the bone out. Make sure they had proper marbled, about 1.5 inch, almost 2 inch steaks. 6 steaks. I went to, and they didn't tell me how much it was going to cost. I just pre-ordered them, and then I went today to pick them up. And I got there, those steaks were $175. For 6 steaks, I paid $175. And I was like, man. And on the way back, I felt like, man, forget a Christmas gift. I need to wrap these steaks and put them under the tree and say Merry Christmas, because, man, that's like, they better be good too. I mean, I know it all depends on how you cook it, but man, you shouldn't have to do much with a steak that are about $30 each. So we'll see how it comes out. Maybe do a video on these $30 each steaks and see how that goes. But there better not be no leftovers. Better nobody be messing over no steak. I might have to cut them things up and probably freeze some. So I ain't, that's a good idea. Yeah. I ain't cooking all them steaks tomorrow. I might just save some for the New Year's or something. But anyways, as my man Cam said, my intros be kind of long. So Cam, if you're reading this, or if you're listening to this, fast forward to 6 minutes and 19 seconds, and I'll get into boundaries. But if you already listened to it, you might as well just continue on now. So maybe next time the intro will be a little shorter. But as we mentioned last video, we're talking about boundaries, and I think boundaries are essential for establishing how people treat you and what you would tolerate. And there's a saying like, what you tolerate will give people a license to treat you. Like if you're tolerating, there's a lot of times people will say, oh, it's just such and such that's being who they are. That's just how they are. And my stance is like, I used to tell, people, especially my soldiers, I says, I don't mind you being who you are until you being who you are affects others and who they are. Like your personality should not be so overwhelming that it's okay for you to be who you are, and then at the expense of other people. So me, I understand my personality. I'm like a flame. And I think I mentioned this in the video. I was talking to someone the other day. It's like, I have a flame. My birth sign is a Taurus. I'm a Taurus. So I don't know if you subscribe to the different signs based on birthdays and stuff, but I looked into mine, and I won't say I subscribe to it word for word, but the tendency of a Taurus match closely with how my personality, how I'm wired. So I can be very stubborn. I can be very stable. Like I like nice things, the lap of luxury. I enjoy nice things. I'm a provider. I'm a protector. But then there's also that Taurus has horns. Like once they get to that point, it's like, man, you better watch out because we're clearing everything out. So I have that in me too. So I understand, like, I have to stay far from the edge. In order for me to stay far from that edge, I got to have those boundaries in place so I don't get there, because I'm the type that's going to kill a fly with a hammer and it's going to be splattered all over. No, I'm not going to go get a fly swatter. So if it gets time for me to use that, then I've already lost. So I need boundaries and stuff. And that's why I'm going through this now, because in 2020, 21, I want to protect my flame, because me as being a flame, I could be used to warm a house, cozy fireplace, cook some food, to have you, a nice campfire, have a good time. Or on the opposite end, we can burn this whole motherfucker down. Excuse my language, but we can have a forest fire and just everything will go ablaze, and it won't be just could be completely reckless with destruction, tearing up property. And as we know, I went to jail for tearing up some property at the other house over there. So I'm capable of that. And me being mindful of that, I'm capable of that. I need to really start to have boundaries in place so I can get stuff stopped at the infancy stages and not allow it to get there. So we're going to go through these boundaries. The first three we went through on the last video, went through the physical boundaries, intellectual boundaries, and emotional boundaries. If you didn't catch those, go back to the last video and then you get caught up. So the next three boundaries we're going to go through. The first one is sexual boundaries. So sexual boundaries refers to the emotional, intellectual, and physical aspects of sexuality. Healthy sexual boundaries involves a mature understanding and respect of limitations and desires between sexual partners. So kind of establishing that boundaries. If you're in a relationship with a woman, or whether you're married or have a girlfriend, whatever it may be, having those sexual boundaries. Sex is supposed to be a mutually beneficial, mutually enjoying activity. It's one of those things like when it becomes unbalanced, it becomes unhealthy. So whether you want it too much or she's giving it too little or whatever it may be, if those sexual desires are not matching, or there's no compromise in there, then you have the potential for an unhealthy sexual relationship. And we'll get some more into that, because I think this one is critical for young kings, for us to really understand the sexual boundaries. Sexual boundaries can be violated when unwanted sexual touch, pressure to engage in sexual acts, leering, or sexual comments. So when it becomes unwanted, then it becomes unhealthy. So that's all the determining factor, if it's unhealthy or not. If it's unwanted and you have pressure on there, then that's in an unhealthy nature. And if it's prolonged, where it's unwanted and you're in a marriage and stuff of that nature, then you probably need to figure out why is it unwanted. And because it's unhealthy, because it's a natural desire. And there's a tendency out there for young kings for women to manipulate men to think like the men want sex more than they do. So you got this active manipulation going on, where it feels like you have to perform, like, to get the treat, like a doggy treat. Like, if, roll over, and then all of a sudden you get a little treat. Oh no, you didn't roll over all the way. Lay on your side, get on your hind legs. So whatever it may be, you need to make sure that you're in a healthy environment and have those talks about it. I know for me, this is an area that I struggled in my last relationship. And a lot of times for me, as a male, when I stepped outside of the marriage and committed adultery, which is completely wrong. I'm not endorsing that. And it's from a lack of maturity, lack of understanding on my part in my youth and in my adulthood as well. But there's been several times that I will go to my wife to engage in these things. And I used to tell her, I said, "You're my only moral outlet. If I don't get it from you, then where morally can I get this need fulfilled? Like, I'm supposed to drink from my own cistern," and that's in the Bible. And, talks in Proverbs about drink from the cistern of your own well. But when your well is dried up and it's not available, then you got to start to have those hard conversations and talks. And maybe you need a mediator. And we even sat down with our pastor and stuff of that nature, and there was never really a genuine desire for me in that relationship, sexually. So it was very unhealthy. So it's one of those things. And when it becomes unhealthy, and the reason I want to pause on this a little bit, it's not to be so transparent with you to make it seem like that was the one reason that everything failed. But this is a real critical stage as a young king if you don't understand sexual boundaries, because there's going to be there's this acronym that I came up with on this about a decade ago, and I call it PAWS, PAWS. And I'm talking this sexual boundaries for young kings from a man perspective. So for the females that's watching this is not for you. This is for the young kings, and really to equip them to be better men. PAWS, PAWS. And as I was going through the acronym, I was wondering if I should say the real word on here, but I'm going to censor it. PAWS stands for punani as a weapon system. So if you're in a relationship and they're using the punani as a weapon system against you, where it feels like in order for you to get sex, you got to do A, B, and C. You need to earn this much amount of money. You got to buy them this gift. That's PAWS in this action. They putting them paws on you. You know how they used to say, putting them paws on you? Women, especially those who are not mature in this area and doesn't understand the mutually beneficial benefits of sexual activity within a monogamous relationship, then they will use paws. There's a lot of husbands that's getting paws put on them. Like, they come home from work, they got to perform, they got to clean, they got to do this in order to have it every once in a while. So you got to be aware and have those sexual boundaries, so you're not as impacted by pause, because I wasn't ready for pause. And what I did was equally as destructive, was go get it from somewhere else. And that would cause equally as much damage. So if you're not mature and understand that it's being used against you, then you can have detrimental side effects behind feeling rejected. And as we went through my video, that's one of my kryptonite: rejection. I don't like rejection. And feeling like you're not good enough, are you worthy, and this and that. And it's like, when if you feel like you got to earn sex, like if you got to come home and you got to do A, B, and C, you got to clean, you got to do this, and you got to do that, and you find yourself being manipulated, 9 times out of 10, she's putting those paws on you, and you got to be aware of that. So there's another acronym that I recently came up with, and it's LUST, LUST, lust. And lust is deadly. I mean, really, as a young king, you really need to understand lust, because, man, lust have torn down not only relationships, it has stifled men's growth, it has stifled men's creativity, and everything. So lust, losing under sexual temptation. So what you can't do is kind of take that L because of the lust. Because once you get into that lust, it's going to have you doing a lot of different things. And if you got lust, you're going to be definitely susceptible to pause. So lust from a man perspective, and then pause as a, punani as a weapon system in the hands of a woman that's manipulating you. Man, you're in for a long time. You're in for a hard relationship. You're in for a lot of sleepless nights. You're in for a lot of rejection. You're in for a lot of manipulation, a lot of disappointment. So you're gonna have to figure out how to get your lust under control and assassinate it, and be whole, be okay without having sex. Maybe you need to go through abstinent phase or whatever it may be. And I'm saying this is easier said than done. This is not an easy task to take on, because if those within that combination of lust and pause, I'm telling you right now, and I'm repeating this. And you know how they say when a teacher repeats something over and over again, it must be important. It may be on a test, and this will be on a test in your life. You will be tested by your sexual temptations, as well as punani as a weapon system. So what do? You got to be whole. You got to have some honest and open conversation of what a healthy sexual relationship is within the confines of a relationship, and make sure that it's mutually agreeable. Because in here, when it says sexual boundaries, it's when it's unwanted. And there's this manipulation going on where people think like, or women will try to make it seem like men want sex more than women do, and that's not the case. Um, if if she might not want sex with you, but that doesn't mean that she doesn't want sex. That doesn't mean like she doesn't have sexual desires about people that's in movies or who she perceived to be attractive. It's just something in you is not stimulating her. And for me, that was a hard thing for me to accept, that, hey, man, what's wrong with me? Like, even in the current situation I'm on, it's like, okay, um, my ex can drive down to Detroit to see a dude. But for me, man, when drive 5 blocks or a block to see me, it's like, I got to come all the way to her. So whatever it is, you need to have those honest talks about sex so you don't have those paws put on you. So make sure you understand that. Make sure you understand lust. Like, and lust is real. Sex sells. Like, and I'm not saying like every woman that's half naked dressed or twerking on Instagram means that she's open for sex. But what I'm saying with lust, that would kind of pervert your mind to think that. So go on Instagram. It's out there. You probably can't go to your story feeds without seeing somebody's twerking in some Christmas pajamas today. Same jingle bells, and the bells ain't the thing that's jingling. I probably shouldn't have said that, but there's something jingling on Instagram right now, and you just got to be careful, because if you get so involved into the sexual aspect of it, it can have you ignoring all kind of red flags in other areas of that relationship, because you'll be so into the sexual feeling that you won't care how she treats you. you know, you'll just be just into that. So that manipulation becomes stronger, the weaker you are. Like if you get sex and all of a sudden she gave you something, oh, it's okay, and then you find yourself being mistreated and all that, and then you get through that slippery slope. You end up in a relationship where you're like, man, how did we get here? And it's because of lust and it's because of pause. Those two combination, you ignored red flags and it got you in an unhealthy environment because those boundaries wasn't established. You didn't have those hard conversations about what it is to be in a healthy sexual environment where it's mutually stimulating. And sex is not just for the bedroom either. So as a young king, you got to understand that. And when I say understand that, I'm not saying understand that so you can be manipulated by pause and performing and doing all these things outside the bedroom. But there is an element of that. There was times where I would come home from work, I would cook dinner, or mow the grass, and do all these things, only to get in the bedroom, and the wife would tell me she's tired. Like, hey, nigga, you see what I just did today? But the understanding that there's conversations that need to happen outside the bedroom in the sexual boundaries. There's there's foreplay. There's other things that have to go on. Maybe I need to do a separate video on the sexual boundaries from a young king's perspective, so you can understand this. Because one thing you don't want to do is being in a situation where it's unwanted and you're unwanted, and it never is it okay for you to force yourself on an unwanted situation. It's better for you to go and get some lotion and go in that bathroom and go sing them jingle bells on Instagram than it is for you to force yourself on another young lady. There's a lot of fish in the sea. I'm not advocating cheating either, but I'm saying this: like, have these tough conversations, and if you're not equally yoked, then maybe that's not going to be a healthy environment for you to be in, because once you're not sexually satisfied, it opens up the door. As I used to tell my ex, I said, look, you sending a fat kid to the store hungry. Like, you ever been in the store when you're hungry? It's like, man, you put all kind of shit in your cart, stuff that you normally wouldn't eat. And that's how it is, like, when you're in a relationship and you're sexually unsatisfied. Man, those leggings, they look a little better then. That short skirt, they look a little better. But when you're sexually satisfied, you full. You didn't already ate at home, and there's no need for you to go out and do it somewhere else because you full. But if you go out to the grocery store hungry, I'm telling you, you're gonna have some shit in your cart that you don't need to be bringing home. That that be destructive to your relationship. So I think that's enough time on there. I didn't mean to go that long on the sexual boundaries, but really understand lust and really understand pause. And if you find yourself in your situation where pause is being used on you, then you need to start having some hard conversations with your significant other. So the next boundary is material boundaries. Material boundaries refer to money and possession. Healthy material boundaries involve setting limits on what you will share and with whom. So, money, like, and this is going to be awkward, like, because sex, when they say pause and they use it as a weapon system, like, for women, and I'm not talking about when you first meet a young lady or whatever it may be, but maybe it's all, let me take that back. Regardless, it's okay for someone to ask you for money, but you can't ask them for sex. And I'm not saying that this is some prostitution or anything of that nature. I'm just saying, like, how ironic it is. It's like, hey, young lady, approach you, buy me a drink at the bar, or can you buy me this? Can you do this for me? And they disrespect your money, but then when it comes to things that you want, then we won't even go there. But anyways, it refers to your money and your possession. Healthy boundaries, material boundaries, involve setting limits on what you will share and with whom. For example, it may be appropriate for you to lend a car to a family member, but probably not to someone you just met that morning. So when you, especially around Christmas time, around holidays, some people are entitled to the money you earn. They feel like, oh, don't worry about it. You got it. It's okay. You don't need it anyway. And they will make judgments about what's in your wallet, about what you went to work for and what you had to earn. And then they want you to give it to them freely. So really, this material boundary is equally as important as the one previous with the sexual boundary, because The sexual boundary, your woman can manipulate you with. But this material boundary, it opens up itself to everyone, friends, family, you know, everybody who thinks that you. Sometimes when you get a promotion or something, people are calculating who they're going to go to next when they come in to hard times. Oh man, I know you got it. It ain't nothing to you. Like, don't count my pockets. Like, you really need to establish your material boundaries. And sometimes, and I tell my kids this, and I've told friends like when you get a call from someone and you ain't heard from them in a while, you know, wait till that second or third sentence, and I would tell you what the true purpose of that call was. You know, don't say, "Hey man, I ain't heard from you in a while. I was just checking up on you and this and that." Like, you got to get through that introduction phase, and once those pleasantries goes off of like, "Hey, what you been up to? How's the family? How's work going?" And you get through those pleasantries, and you thinking, "Oh man, it's good to hear from you, man. I ain't heard from you in a while," and you getting excited that you thinking you own somebody's mind. No, their money is on their mind. Your money is on their mind. And that third sentence, "Hey man, you know what? I just ran into some hard times, and you know, Christmas coming around, or my car just broke down. Man, I need this and this and that." That was the original reason why they called you. Not because they haven't heard from you in a long time, not because they just checking on you, not because they want to invest in a friendship. They're at a point of need, and they feel like you're there to meet that need. So, and for me, I get those calls all the time. And it's ironic because people think like, "Hey, he's a lieutenant colonel. He's been in the Army 26 years. He got all this money and this and that." Man, I got to get my spending under control. So I am going on a financial diet. But the reality of it is like, that's my money. Don't be counting my money for me, you know. And people don't ask me for, you know, $5, $10. And I haven't been asked for $5 or $10 in like 15 years. I get calls like, "Hey man, I got a call the other day, 3 days ago. A guy told me he needed $600. I was like, where they do that at? Like, how you just called me out the blue? I ain't talked to you in like, man, almost four years. And hey, it's good catching up with you, man. But you know, I want to see, man. I've been trying to struggle and come up with some money to get this thing done. I need about six. I'm about $600 short." And it's like, "Oh man, you're gonna be $600 short." Like, that don't come from me. So, material boundaries, you need to have that in place, because if you don't, you become susceptible to people feeling entitled to something that you earned. And that even sounds strange for me to even say that. Like, they feel like they entitled to what you earn, what you work for. And I'm a giver too. So I'm not saying you should be selfish with your money, but I'm saying you should definitely have a boundary in place. Material boundaries are violated when someone steals or damage another person's possession, or when they pressure them to give or lend them their possession. Ain't no pressure going on. And I tell you this, young kings, don't lend money to friends and family that you can't afford not to get back. Like, if you can't just give it to them, you might still have the expectation that they pay you back. But if it's going to put you at a detriment, don't do that. Don't do that. Because when they lend it to you, when you lend it to them, you know, you tell them, "Hey, I got it. Meet me here at, you know, half hour." They're going to be there in 23 minutes. They're going to have 7 minutes to spare. But then you tell them, "Hey," they tell you, "As soon as I get paid, I'm going to come back to you." I'm telling you, it's going to be about 5 or 6 paydays after that before they even mention it to you. So when they come get it, they're going to be excited, and they're going to be on time. They're going to be early. But when they pay it back, if they ever pay it back, it's going to be late, and it's going to be with some attitude. "Well, you didn't need it anyway. You got this and this and that." And they're going to make indictments on stuff that they have no right to begin with. But they're going to start making you feel bad, or trying to make you feel bad about something that you gave them. So if you can't afford to give it to them, don't give it to them. So really get into that material possessions. And we're coming up on 30 minutes, but I'm going to get through this last one. And maybe we may revisit as we go into the next one, because the next video, I'm going to some examples of boundaries and some things, where they become unhealthy when people start crossing them, to what we can do. But the last one is time boundaries. Time boundaries refers to how a person uses their time. A healthy time boundary, a person set a time, enough time for each facet of their life, whether it be work, relationship, and hobbies. So value your time, because your time is more important than your money, because you can get more money, but you can't buy more time. Like when time ceases for you, no matter how much money you got at bank or whatever, that time ends and everything else remains here. So value your time. Really, time is precious. As I told you, Father Time is undefeated. This life, nobody gets out alive. Like, you will die. And I don't mean to sound that morbid. It just might not be today, might not be tomorrow. It may be 20, 30 years down the line, 40, 50 years down the line. But man, you will die. That time will run out. Like when you born, it's like they turned your clock over and you got little sand dripping out. Life is expiring from you. Like, as I said in the video before, and I'm trying to hurry up so we can get through this video, but it's like, no matter what you've been through in life, you have never been closer to death than you are today. And you're 30 minutes closer now after watching this video. Like, that's 30 minutes you can't get back. Obviously, I'm investing 30 minutes in you, so I'm trying to help your life be a little more healthy and whole. But the reality of it is, each second you live is a second you're getting closer to death. So your time is extremely important. So if you want to really upset me, have me waiting around for you. Have me show up. You tell me you're going to be ready and you're not ready. Have me just twiddling my thumbs and you just sitting there like, oh, don't worry about it. It's only a half hour. No, we got some issues going on. My patience grows very thin with time. But at the same time, I try to be mindful of other people's time. So in the Army, they tell you if you show up on time, you're late. You're supposed to show up early. And in 2020, I'm going to even get better at that. So time boundaries are violated when another person demands too much of another person's time. So it's like you got to set some time aside for yourself. And this is kind of what I'm learning in my life now. It's like I need to be balanced. I can't just be all work and I can't be all just play. There's got to be a balance between those two. There's some times you got to sneak off to yourself and still have that me time, and still develop who you are as an individual, absent of someone else. And we're going to come back to that, but really value your time and really treat your time as treasure, because that's gold. Like your presence, that's why they call it the present. It's a gift. I know we're going into Christmas, but the gift of time, like what you and who you spend your time with, is extremely important. And some of that time needs to be spent alone. Some of that time needs to be spent reading. So one of my goals is going to be to read more, have more time where I'm setting aside and I'm investing into my intellectual properties and getting more information in my head so I can be more equipped to be better. Because right now I'm spending capital. I got to go back and reinvest in it because I want to invest in others. So what I give out, I got to replenish. So I want to continue that cycle going on. So I'm going to get back on. I won't say tomorrow unless I do my Christmas dinner, these $30 steaks. But it may be the 26th or so, but we'll go through these boundaries again, and we'll go over some examples and some clear consequences behind when people start to violate the boundaries, trying to give us some tools to how to be more wise as we go into this next year. So Merry Christmas, Young King. Have a great day, but make it a series of great days, and make it a great week, make it a series of great weeks, make it a great month, make it a series of great months. And I'll tell you what, 2021 is going to be a great year. Manifest the Young Kings.